Hi, I'm Charles Galda. I'm the president of Vision New England and your host for the Church in Action program, where we talk with New England leaders about the imperatives of making disciples, doing justice, fostering unity, and sharing Jesus to transform New England. This week, I'm talking with Reverend Shannon Mumblo. Shannon is the executive director of Christina's House, serving homeless mothers and children in Springfield, and she'll tell us more about that. But Shannon's an ordained minister, a licensed clinical social worker, a registered nurse, a children's ministry leader, and's worked in the marketplace as well. Shannon, you've covered all the bases. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today, Charles.
Thanks. Well, Shannon, and I think our audience probably has heard at this point that Vision New England completed this research project with over 100 leaders from across New England, including yourself,
So
to
incredible.
document the issues that God's exposed in his church over the last 2 years and what he's called his church to be, to change, to survive and thrive in a post-pandemic world. There's a bunch of research, but to boil it down, we need to make biblically literate disciples who are becoming more like Jesus. In other words, disadvantaging themselves to love and serve others, to do justice with a biblical definition of justice, meaning fixing all of those things in our communities that violate the pre-fall order, and foster unity across divides like race, ethnicity, age, sex, class. Because when we do that, people want to know Jesus.
Amen.
And this isn't about a class or a program. It's a heart and a culture change.
Absolutely, Charles.
And so, Shannon, with that definition, a very broad definition of justice, which may be new for some of us, with that very broad definition of justice that is very biblical, anything that violates the pre-fall order, how does Christina's House fit into that and doing justice?
Well, Charles, I think it's the beauty of Christina's House because all of that work is being done on a daily basis with our team, through the volunteers who come into the house, and amongst the families themselves. You know, Christina's House, everybody asks me, what's the secret to Christina's House? How do you do such great work? What makes it so different from other programs in our area? And my simple answer is Jesus, you know? And what I tell our staff is, what does Jesus tell us to do? One of the great commandments is to love others, you know, to love God with all your heart and to love others as yourself. And so that's what we do every day. You know, our team starts our day focusing on Christ through devotionals in the morning. And then we just keep ourselves fixated on what Jesus has for us to do. And when you're stepping out that great commandment, it's looking at each family that comes to us and understanding everything that's needed, what they've gone through, the system of injustices that have been placed on them, the trauma that they've gone through, all the things that have happened to them because of Genesis, right? Because of what happened when Adam and Eve ate the apple. And so everything after that, you know, we're working hard to really come up with a system of justice that gives them what they need to realize that they have a hope and a future, like in Jeremiah 29:11. Because when they come to us, they're broken. They don't know how to love. They don't know how to trust. And so we simply come alongside them like Jesus would do. And I just see him like just putting his arm around them and just teaching them, loving them where they're at, for who they are. And it sounds simple, and it is, but the work is hard. The work is hard, and that's where the sacrifice comes in.
So my key takeaway is you found it helpful to listen to Jesus and do what he says.
Amen.
Wow, there's a formula. I never thought of that. But how often we don't, right? And so let's back up a little bit and set the stage for folks. Let's a simple question. Who is Christina?
So Christina means follower of Christ.
Okay.
So when my mother-in-law, who started the ministry in 2010, just sitting in church with the idea placed on her heart by God, the mustard seed was planted on her heart. She watered it, allowed it to grow. And I was pregnant with my daughter in 2011. And so we were trying to think of a name for the mission. And I've helped her all along the way, kind of create Christina's house into what it is today. So she opened up my baby book to the letter C and saw the name Christina, and it means follower of Christ. And that's who we are. We're followers of Christ, just stepping out the Great Commission and the Great Commandments given to us by God.
Amen. Amen. And so now you're in Springfield. And for folks who don't know Springfield, right, major city in Massachusetts, but can you give us a little bit of what's the landscape like in terms of poverty, wealth, crime, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand like what we do. So Christina's house has kind of two buckets of programs that we run. One is education, and the other is supportive housing. And those two combined together through, like I said, through a Christ-centered lens is what makes us so unique. And we serve mothers and their children, and we give them an 18 to 24-month period of time and an educational program to walk through that includes Bible study, life coaching through a biblical perspective, introduction to churches and getting them involved into churches. But the hope and the plan is that they transition out of homelessness and into independent living environments, and we continue to support them post-graduation. So Springfield is a major city in Western Massachusetts. Somebody would describe the city of Springfield. There's a lot of opportunity, but it's also a very dark place. It's thriving in certain ways, and in other ways, it's not, because there are churches and there are religious institutions, but in terms of what I see in Springfield, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for alliances to be made, collaborations amongst churches. I've said this to you before, not working in silos, getting beyond the walls of the church and other faith-based nonprofits to work together to break that great divide, because many hands make light work, right? So like I said, I learned the other day that in the city of Springfield, there are about 500 youth right now who are experiencing homelessness. And these are youth, older youth that don't have a family, that are just kind of in the system experiencing homelessness. We've had since January close to 200 inquiries from women with children and women without children. 100% of the people who inquire about our program have experienced some form of systemic injustice, oppression, and trauma, whether it's domestic violence, generational cycles of poverty and abuse. I mean, the list goes on and on. We can be here for hours just talking about that. And then, the school system that the kids are growing up in, I think is under-resourced. The teachers do an excellent job with what they have, but there's just not enough resources to meet the needs for the youth educationally and the support services that are needed. If you're facing homelessness or are homeless and you're going to school, how are you going to focus on what needs to happen in a school day when you're worried about, what am I going to eat for dinner? Am I even going to have dinner? Am I going to have lights on when I get home? I get goosebumps talking about this. Am I going to be abused? Is mom going to be high? Is dad going to be around? Is there a dad? So all of these things are things that we're trying to kind of unravel and support within Christina's house, and then the work that we're doing to create alliances and collaborate with other nonprofits beyond our walls, faith-based or not faith-based.
I was told one time, assuming I remember correct, and the person who told me was correct, 90% of the kids in the school system in Springfield are on free lunch program.
I would say
that sound right?
Sounds right.
Right. So it's a poor city, right? Financially.
It's a very poor city. We were told last year that there's a school very close to us. Many of the children, the guidance counselor was getting calls almost daily from the Department of Children and Family because kids were being taken from their homes because they didn't have enough food.
Wow. Wow. And so Christina's house tries to step into that void, specifically with homelessness, and as you said, there's going to be a whole bunch of other issues attendant to that. And so how does one get into Christina's house? And
Yeah.
then what's going to happen with me over I think you said 18 months or so. What's going to happen with me over that time frame?
So we have eligibility criteria. And we have referrals from all sorts of places. The Department of Children and Family knows us well. There's many caseworkers who call us. People will search for shelters or places to go, especially if they're being evicted or living in doubled up situations where they're about to be kicked out or shouldn't be there, or they're illegally living out of their cars. So they find us, they seek us out. Eligibility criteria just means they have to have children. They're legal citizens of the United States. They've been 6 months free from a traumatic abusive situation and 6 months free of any drug or alcohol abuse. So they've been in sobriety for at least 6 months.
Now, let me stop you there for a second, because somebody listening may say, well, why wouldn't you take people who they're clearly in need? Why wouldn't you take them? Can you speak to that a little bit about some of the issues around that?
Right. So for domestic violence in general, when a person leaves an abuser, the most acute period of time when they are at risk for their abuser to come back and harm them is actually like up to a year, even 18 months sometimes. So for us to say 6 months, we're still in that acute phase for them to have concern that the abuser is going to come back. But we're also, we have to stay in the lane of the services that we provide, and the same for sobriety. So we want somebody to have had some sort of support services to remain in sobriety for at least 6 months and then step down into our program, because the program is by nature just a higher level program that helps them once they've been out of those situations and then beyond that, so that they can continue to have support to stay safe, to stay sober, and then transition out into independence.
And so I think I hear you saying that you're trying to stay in your sweet spot. There's a level of support and services that someone who's within that 6 month window needs, that you guys just aren't equipped to provide. Someone else needs to do that. Now you're in a position to help that person. Is that fair?
Yes. Yes.
And
And so we've had women who have stepped down from halfway houses, from sober homes, that have come to us from there, have been reunited with their children, and then have graduated and gone on to be successful and come back and help in the program as well.
And I'm guessing you also have to be concerned about the other people in the house. So if I've not been clean for long enough to demonstrate that I can stay clean, right, I put
Yes.
other people at risk too.
Yes, and as you may know, with sobriety, it's a walk, and there are triggers, and there are times when people may relapse, and that has happened in the program, and we support them through it. And that when that's happened, they've still continued to be successful. And so, yes, we need to take into consideration all of the women and children in the house and the safety of everyone when we're thinking about bringing someone in. So somebody applies to the program. It takes about 4 weeks to come into the program. And you might say, well, they're homeless, they need help now. Why does it take so long? Well, because we don't have, we have 2 homes in Springfield, Massachusetts. We can house up to 30 individuals at a time. So 30 mothers and children. We're about to have 10 moms and 15 kids with 2 full houses. So we need to be selective about the people who come into our home, the families that we're going to serve, because we want to make sure that they're motivated to do the program. We want to make sure that they are a good fit for the program, and the program is a good fit for them. So we have some stages. Over time, we've developed things that we feel like are good tools for us to interview people, give them a sense of the program, give them time to consider what they're going to be stepping into, because it's also a sacrifice on their end. They are giving up a lot to get a lot in the end. And so we want to make sure that we're being as descriptive and informative as possible. And they get to kind of meet the other families, the staff get to meet them. And then there's assessments that we do with them as well to kind of tell us a little bit more about who they are. One of the questions you asked is, what do they get when they're there? What do you expect? So
Shannon, I just want to go back on one other point, just because I want you to speak to this, but I want to come to that, please.
Yeah.
Some people may also say, but these people need help. You need, right? You need to help them even in that phase. And someone at DCF pointed out to me a long time ago that you think that your options are, I'm going to help this person, or I not going to help this person. And you're not recognizing that if you don't do it right, you can hurt this person worse than where they are today. And so would you agree with that? And does that factor into some of your thinking there too?
Oh, of course. I mean, that factors into our thinking throughout all levels of the organization, even when they're in the program. And part of our initiative over the last year has been creating a culture of trauma-informed care, which can be used as a catchphrase, but for us, it's really creating this culture where our team and staff is educated on how to truly help everybody who calls. Every time we pick up the phone, how we're talking to somebody. So we're not creating any judgment, that we know how to talk to people, that when we have to say no, we know how to do that in a way that is still supportive, still providing alternatives or other situations for them to possibly pursue. But the bottom line is there's not a lot of services, and there is a greater need than there are services to meet the need. And that is what it is in the area in which we provide the services in Springfield, particularly.
And so I get accepted into the program. And is there a trial period, or is it I move right in and I'm in?
So there is a 60-day period of time where we are working with you to both orient you into the program, but you also know that over the 60 days, it's kind of a trial period. We're seeing how you do, we're orienting you, we're supporting you, you're setting goals. We want to see how motivated you are to reach those goals and really be a part of the program. And so if after those 60 days, you're at 30 days, we're talking to you and you get a monthly evaluation where our team kind of gives you feedback. You give your own feedback, your own self-evaluation. We're looking at things like, are you following the policies? Are you getting along with other people? Are you attending the classes? Are you, really invested in pouring into your children and those relationships? Are you attending your meetings with our case managers? Are you on time? Those sorts of things. We don't expect perfection, but we want to see investment. We want to see some buy-in to the program because they saw us out, right? So there's a reason they wanted to be in the program. So that kind of period of time is what we're looking at.
So during that 60 days, and I heard initially, I'm setting some goals for what I want my life to be like at the end of the program. Is that the idea?
Yeah, so we help each family set SMART goals, both the youth and the moms, the youth who are old enough to begin setting goals. So our case managers work with the families every week, and they set SMART goals. They're specific, they're measurable, they're actionable, they're reachable and realistic, and they're timely. And so that's kind of like the foundation. And we have them set 2 to 3 goals every month. And every month we're looking at what they need and the support services they need to help them realize those goals as they work through the program.
What's an example of a goal or two that somebody would set just to help us understand?
Yeah. So over the next 30 days, I would like to get myself involved in a GED program so that I can finish my GED and get my certification and move on to the next level of education. Maybe they want to go to college after that, but they can't do that until they get their GED.
Okay.
Or
So
over the
very
next
near term and practical.
Or over the next 30 days, I will work with my case manager, apply to 5 different employers so that I can attain employment in the next 2 months.
Okay, so as soon as they get in, they're really starting to work towards sustainability once they get out.
Yes. So from month 1, you are starting with a financial counselor. We have a whole financial syllabus and a counseling program that we've created internally that steps them through 24 months in the program, up to 24 months, and then beyond another 12 months so that they continue to work their budget and maintain their finances even post-graduation, because financial literacy, is a connector to a lot of things. So that's
And I'm
where we start from the beginning with that.
and I'm guessing you're dealing with a lot of folks who their family never had money, so they never learned how to manage money either, right? And that becomes a cycle. And so you're
Correct.
trying to break that by saying, well, actually, if you get a job and you've got money coming in, you need to start managing it. And you need to know that now.
Right. So, yeah, I'm glad you said that, because it's the generational impact that we are creating. And there's generational strongholds of abuse and poverty, and just teaching them, like a whole different world of things that they might never have been exposed to. And a lot of times we'll have women in the program and their partners, if they have a partner, will involve them, or if they have a mom or a parent or an aunt or an uncle, like, we're bringing them into it too. If they have a desire or interest, and there's a class that we can bring them into or support. So like the reach even goes beyond that. But yeah, we have graduate kids that are looking at college now, that they see that what they want to be. I want to be a teacher, so I'm looking at Bay Path, or I'm looking at Stick or Springfield, like whatever that is. They have a hope now, and they see mom did it, so now I can do it. And it keeps going beyond that. So the generational impact will go on well after I'm not here, is my hope.
Gotcha. And so, and then generation after generation, you break the cycle, but then you set a new cycle, right? That's
Mhm.
more successful. And so, financial literacy is part of what they're going to go through over the next 18 months. What are some other things that they'll be doing over that 18-month period?
Yeah, so like I said, weekly and as needed meeting with a case manager, who is like, if you think of the program as like the family and the center, and then the case managers are connecting spokes, so like a bicycle wheel, and then just the program in general is the structure that holds it all together and supports it. So weekly, they are alternating between Bible study and life coaching, like I said, through a biblical perspective. They're getting parenting classes, self-defense courses, trauma-informed care training, sexual assault and abuse and prevention and preparedness training, serve safe training. We have chefs that come in and teach them how to cook healthy meals. We teach them meal preparation, how to shop on a budget, how to eat healthy. We take them to farm shares. We have a local farm that gives us a farm share, so they get to go and experience a farm share and pick out the vegetables. And then we do gardens. So we teach them self-sustainability through learning how to start a garden from seed all the way to harvesting. Which, if they have their own home, then they know how to do that, right? Especially in today's day and times, we don't know what's happening next. So, like, learn how to start your own garden. The parenting classes are critical. And alongside that, we have boundaries classes that are taught, boundaries for the moms themselves, and then boundaries in parenting, which is very critical. If we don't have boundaries in life, a lot of chaos ensues, right? And so teaching them how to do that when they've never really experienced healthy boundaries for themselves and for their kids. We have outside services that come in, like early intervention, healthy families, counselors will come in. So a lot of that happens. We partner with other agencies and allow those services to happen in-house for the moms and the kids. I mean, like I said, every family is treated as it's a whole system approach. So whatever they need, we're providing them as long as they're invested. So the list goes on and on. We could be here for an hour
And,
talking
and it,
about
it
it.
sounds like you're touching every aspect of life, tailored to
Yeah,
what that person is
yes,
really,
it's a whole
their
system
background,
approach.
where they are. And so now I heard you mention a couple of times Bible study. And
Mhm.
so, are women and families coming in, are they already Christians? And is this compelled Bible study if they're not? Because I see you shaking your head no.
Yeah.
And what are the outcomes you see in that?
So I believe in an approach that allows the women to experience Bible study from a perspective from which they can understand, where we're not using, um, terms that a seasoned Christian might understand, but we're really meeting the moms where they're at. Some of them are Christians when they come in, they see the program, they see that it's faith based, and based on their situation, it's a natural fit for them to want to come into the program. And then there's other women who aren't, but still understand that that's a part of the program and understand that Bible classes are a place that they still have to be a part of. It's part of the program. So it allows them a space to ask questions. The teacher is a pastor at a local church and one of our board members. He's been doing it for many years. And he provides a safe environment for them to begin to learn about the Bible and who the triune God is and who Jesus was when he walked on the earth. And then it gives them a place to talk together collectively. So the awesome part is that the moms who might be Christians, who are, on their walk or really are biblically informed, can support the moms who aren't and answer those questions. And so we've seen just lives transformed. We're actually going to be partnering with a local church to do some baptisms next week for a couple graduates and for some moms who are in the program. So we see moms, I just got goosebumps again. So we see moms come into the program who have never experienced Christ. I'll give you the cool stories at the end, I know, but one of the moms.
Go ahead. We only have 2 minutes left, so great to tell us who's
new in our program. She was there for about a week, and we did a Maundy Thursday supper, right? And so we planned it out, and we had the soup, and we sat down, and we walked out different Bible verses related to what we were talking about, and we did communion. And before we did communion, we talked about what it meant in a simple term, which was understandable. But we said, in order to take communion, you need to believe, and have Christ in your heart and accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. So if there's anybody here who is not, but would like to accept Christ as their Lord and Savior, we would love to walk the sinner's prayer through with you. And that new mom raised her hand like ecstatically. And so we did that with her, and she was saved that night, and she took communion with us, and she's been with us for almost 60 days now. And so seeing her ask questions, and she's so hungry and thirsty and wants to know more and be involved. And she's one of the moms that's going to be baptized next week. So it's the Great Commission, right? If we're not out there doing it and speaking it and believing that God in us is working through us and wants to give us the power to bring others and to disciple others in a way that's just through the love that we're showing, they see it, they want to be a part of it. And that's just one of the cool stories over the last 60 days that's happened.
And it reinforces exactly what we talked about in the introduction here, right? So many of us just want to tell somebody about Jesus, but what you've demonstrated and what we're hearing from more and more leaders is you can't just tell somebody about Jesus. God can do anything and use anything you want, but the more effective model we're seeing is I serve you, I show my love for you, and now you're open to hearing about Jesus. Yes. That's a great story to end on. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks so much for your ministry and your friendship and your support and serving at Vision New England.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and everything you do, Charles.
Well, thanks very much. I'd also like to thank our producer, Jess Mangano, and our listeners. We hope this dialogue helps us be the people of God who do the work of God, in this case, doing justice, so that more people want to know Jesus. Visit us at Vision New England for past episodes and resources, and click Donate to partner with us to accelerate evangelism in New England. This program is brought to you by our friends at the Luis Palau Association, who are dedicated to proclaiming the good news, uniting the church, and impacting cities worldwide.